This one.
Well, Jackie, thank you for having us under these strange circumstances. We've got a bit of a distance between us. But starting from the beginning, motorsports is notoriously difficult to get into. How did you go about it? What were the obstacles you had to overcome?
I never thought I was going to be a racing driver. I'm a severe dyslexic. I can't read or write correctly. I can't find my name on a keyboard. I can't use an iPhone, for example. So I was a real dummy at school. So I left school as soon as I could. I had no academic skills at all. So I went to night school to turn out to be a certified mechanic, which I got eventually. But I prepared racing cars for a very rich young man in Glasgow whose family would not allow their son to be a racing driver. It's too dangerous. So he's an only child. So he had a Porsche and he had an AC Bristol. And I was the mechanic. And as a reward, he said, "Would you like to do a wee race?" And I finished second. He said, "Oh, well, you better do another one." And I won the next one. And it was just then a rocket ship.
When you actually got into a Formula One car in your first Grand Prix, were you still quite relaxed, or did it all suddenly did it all go up a notch?
My first race, I would have said I was a bit uptight.
Yeah.
I think I was 11th on the grid. It was terrible. I finished 6th, but it was a bad start, and then I did quite well after
Well,
that.
I can't say too bad. P6 in your first Grand Prix, you can't exactly have a bad start.
No, but there was a good car, and I also had a good friend in Jim Clark to see how he drove, and it was he who I think was the greatest driver, certainly of my time. I think Fangio was the greatest driver of all time, but I think Jim Clark was the best of any other driver that I've seen. I mean, that includes Senna, that includes Schumacher, that includes all of the great drivers.
So 3 years in '68, you moved to Matra, which then became Tyrrell Racing. What were your thoughts at the beginning of that season? New team?
I nearly drove for Ferrari. I went down, shook the hands of the old man, and then he did a double act on me. And I said, I can't drive for a team that I can't trust. So I walked away. And I didn't have another drive at that time. But Ken Tyrrell then got the Matra people in France with the Cosworth engine to put together a team, Tyrrell Racing. And it was a big success. I mean, the engine was fantastic. The Cosworth engine was the best racing engine that I think the world's ever seen. And he built the Tyrrell Ford. I won 2 world championships with Ken Tyrrell, and just fantastic.
When you actually decided to retire, and you had your sort of first season off, was there any feeling of great relief that, I made it, I'm alive?
It's a good question. Never.
Never?
No. I only did 99 races. The 100th race, which I was at, Ken Tyrrell asked me the day before, on the Friday, first day of practice, we were quickest, and he said, it's your last race. He was the only one that knew. Last race. It would be a great thing if you were to back off and let Francois win. It would be a great gesture, if you like. And I said, Ken, my 100th race, to win my last race and then retire would have been a big dream. And I said, I can't give you an answer. I'll give you an answer after qualifying. And of course, Francois was killed on the Saturday morning. And I decided for the team that I didn't think it was right for us to run the race at all. So we withdrew. So I never did 100 Grand Prix. But I retired without any regrets at all. And I never wanted to drive a racing car again.
What were your goals after? What was the next phase of your life? What did you think? What do I want to achieve now?
I think I do. I remember very clearly. I thought I had 5 years, financially.
Right.
Because I had already signed a 5-year contract with Goodyear, knowing I was retiring. I had a long-term contract with Rolex. Today, here I am, I'm 81 years of age shortly. and I'm still with Rolex, and I'm now with Heineken for a long-term contract, but I'm still with Moët & Chandon. So motor racing gives you that opportunity.
Well, my father made a good stab at it, but didn't do very well. So it's also easier said than done, Jackie.
Yeah, but your father was a different animal.
Yeah,
He was a completely different animal. Your father was a playboy at the best level.
Yeah, and
your
a poor
father
businessman.
was glamorous, colourful, and exciting, and your but quite often your father was a naughty boy.
Yeah.
And big multinational corporations don't go for naughty boys.
Yeah.
After he won the World Championship, after Japan, he got back to Tokyo, and the British ambassador held a dinner party for him, and he didn't show up until halfway through the night, but he showed up with no socks, runners on, and a t-shirt.
How he got away with things like that?
Oh, he did, but that was part of why people loved him.
Yeah. A lot of the drivers have been moving around the last few weeks, changing contracts. I hear Sebastian Vettel has decided to leave Ferrari and being replaced by Carlos Sainz.
Vettel, I like him a lot. He's a lovely man, and he behaves himself extremely well and represents his team and himself very well. But I think he's been there long enough. I hope he retires, because I think he has great potential of being a man of his own, without having to be a racing driver. And he's made a great deal of money, so financially he's not troubled. I don't know what he'll do next, but it would be nice if he kept a relationship in the same way as I have with so many different companies. Mm-hmm. But I think his top line racing days are over.
You see some drivers who get to a level of competitive consistency and they continue to rise. The great ones, like Lewis, for example, he got to a level where he was winning, but he still kept going up and up and up. Mm. And other drivers, they might get to a brief spell and get close to a world title or win one, but then not again. What do you think the difference is between the two?
Hunger, glamour, colourful, exciting life. And in case of Lewis, coming from a background of no money to speak of, his father having 4 jobs to afford his son's go-kart racing, coming up, and then he stayed with it. I stayed with it as long as I wanted to. I went to America one year. I crossed the Atlantic 86 times because I was doing ABC's Wide World of Sports, I was doing IndyCar, I was doing Can-Am car, as well as Formula One, as well as touring cars for people like John Coombs and Ford Motor Company with, Cortinas. I was driving huge numbers, and I was burned out. Lewis Hamilton's not going to be burned out doing 22 races in a year. Yeah. Of course, he gets the simulator and he gets a whole lot of other things, and of course he'll have commercial commitment, but nothing like the pace that we were running in those days.
So your vast experience and long relationship with Texaco, how has the experience been?
We had Texaco at Stewart Grand Prix, and I was a very happy chappie to have Texaco. Even beyond BP, who were British, because I wanted a global player, and Texaco were a global player. They've been around for a long time, and they're certainly, in my opinion, going to be there for a long time.
With this, the current global pandemic, the coronavirus, do you think Formula One will be able to race again this year?
Oh, I think they'll race this year. I don't know how many races they're going to have with spectators.
Right.
That's going to be governmentally decided, not motor racing fraternity. The power of motorsport is very big. The whole world drives cars. Whether you drive a Fiat or a Ferrari, you want your motorsport. And I think that's one of the things that will allow it to come back.
Obviously some teams are stronger than others. Financially, mostly is the basis. So which teams do you think are going to battle the hardest? I
think teams like Red Bull will continue because the product allows, it's a global product. Mm-hmm. They're a very good company, very well managed. They behave themselves, I'm sure, financially, and they know what to do and when to do it. So I think they'll be okay. Ferrari, I think, will be okay, but not guaranteed, because there's, people who would have been buying Ferraris in the future might not be able to afford them. I think motor racing will prevail simply because everybody, man or woman, drive cars.
Yeah.
And we're going to have a female racing driver in the future, and I hope that we get a Formula One one, because that'll be another dimension. So you have to look at the upside as well as the downside.
Well, so Jackie Stewart, thank you very much indeed for having us and spending the time talking to us.
And it's nice that I'm talking to the son of a man I raced against.
Fond memories, I hope.
Yeah, good ones.
Good.